welcome to another weekend here on the platform. My name is Sam Omashe. My column will be read to you shortly.
In the beginning was the land, and the land was with the people, and the land was God. No one, up to today, in spite of the sophisticates of technology and commerce, has been able to do it in. It has dwelt man, and with men, and men with it. And there is no effort that people ever made that was without the land. When we fly, we come down to it alive, lame or dead. Or when we paddle through roaring waters, we birth for peace. When it is all over, it has never lost appetite to swallow and digest the end of all flesh. It is the light of society, even when we try to make light of it. Out of it we feed, on it we walk. From it we fly, for it we war and worry. Also we make roads, and in Nigeria it has had its own tumults called the herdsmen and farmers. With the new government policy, it seems we're making peace with the land. It is perhaps the cowrie, the mystic to cow the herd. When the idea was first propounded, the earth shook. They called it Ruga, and the storm was the name, not the idea. Or shall we say the name was the idea? Ruga is an Hausa word, and if it meant anything to those who did not like it, it was that the Hausa Fulani in high places wanted to take over southern communities. Who would not think so when the whole idea was to call them Ruga in Kano and call them Ruga in Sapele or Onitsha? Did the locals not have their language? It came across as a hegemonic gambit and frowned at by those who did not call farm or cattle in the Hausa language. Meanwhile, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo was at the head of another project known as the National Livestock Transformation Plan, NLTP, and had to scramble to dissociate himself from Ruga. It became a name-tainting gamble to stand in Abuja and be tarred with the Ruga brush. So, President Muhammadu Buhari cancelled it. So, the Osinbajo project, working with others, became the saving face. But it was a project the North wanted, and the North only. Another man who had to confront the bear is the governor of Plateau State, who is also chairman of the Northern Governors Forum. It became clear that Governor Simon Lalong would have to expand his affairs as governor to the tempest of the region. Having confronted the apocalypse of the herder's menace, he had set a template that made Plateau an oasis when others burned. Then the template fell into error from sabotage, and it quickly found its feet after many dead. His solution, an envy and copycat of some neighboring states, makes a case for him to lead his fellow governors at this time of unease in his region. As one of the key figures working with the Vice President on NLTP committee, he had to bring the experience of the mechanics and politics. If this works, it will be a historic shift. With Professor Osinbajo and Lalong working together, shall we not see this as the first major seed in putting to an end the suspicion? We still need to know the details. How is it going to be funded? Governor Lalong says it will be piloted by the federal government, but it's essentially a local affair. Peace is the first condition for prosperity. Governor Lalong, with his colleagues, just launched a mall in Kaduna as part of the effort to turn the North into post-crisis place. But Lalong knows that this is no easy venture. His experience in Plateau knows that to reconcile, you must watch. If he has been able to do it in Plateau, he has the challenge to do it all over North, especially with the bandits abroad in bushes and highways. The northern crisis has lingered too long. Lalong seems poised for success. So are all Nigerians.
Welcome to Big Talk. I have with me here Barrister Femi Falana, SAN, who I always describe as the best lawyer of his generation. Well, welcome to this show, sir.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure once again.
Yes, my first question is, how would you assess the state of law and justice in the country?
Well, very interesting. It's almost at a dangerous level. whereby we have a case of unequal justice between the poor and the rich. Members of the legal profession are unconsciously promoting two sets of criminal justice, one for the poor and one for the rich. And it's not good for the development of the rule of law. Once you have unequal justice, I mean, I talk of a situation whereby even for the anti-graft agencies, even for the EFCC that is often accused of employing Gestapo tactics by the rich, politely invites the rich. They send polite letters to people who have been invited to come and answer serious allegations of corruption or, other financial and criminal crime, economic crime. Polite letter by asking you to be interviewed by the undersigned, and they put the phone number. And you can call the officer. Sorry, I'm not in town. I want to see you on so day when I will be available. But you don't do that to the poor.
You just corral them.
The police will invade the home of a suspect who belongs to the flotsam and the jetsam of the society. If it's not available, you arrest the wife or any of the children.
Well, but people have said that has always been the situation with humanity from the beginning.
No.
There's a level of justice for the rich, a level of justice for the poor, and the poor have always been with us, and they have always received that kind of justice.
No. There are two types of legal systems. A legal system under the capitalist system is founded on fraud and wealth. You buy justice. If you are rich, justice is commoditized. But
because of people like you.
But where you have a system that questions inequality or injustice, is socialism. Attempts are made by the government to abolish class differences. And there, you don't sell justice. The system ensures that everybody has a day in court. But what is now being done, realizing the danger of abandoning the poor, capitalist countries now have measures like the legal aid scheme, National Human Rights Commission, so that some of the poor can go to complain in such fora so that they can get some justice. But for the majority of the poor, if you offend them, if you offend the poor, they will simply tell you that God will take care. God will give judgment. God will give us justice.
So you still agree that in essence, everywhere is cosmetic justice for the poor. Which Nigeria is not unique.
No, I'm saying that in most countries, right, where you have what they call, where society is dominated by what they call market forces.
Yes.
You just say everybody should go to the market. You buy justice, buy goods, buy whatever. So in that kind of environment, there is a problem.
What do you do in such instances? Like in Nigeria now, we have such instances in which the poor increasingly complain that they don't only have the absence of legal justice, they don't have economic justice, they don't have political justice. And you are a human rights lawyer, you are conversant with the prevalence of this kind of dichotomy in the society. How do you fight it? Where do you even begin?
What we do now, we have, to a large extent, fought and won the battle for everybody in this society to have a meaningful day in court if they have any contact with the law. And what we have done is to ensure, for instance, under the Administration of Criminal Justice Act now, the police have been prohibited from dabbling into civil matters. I mean, if I'm owing you or you can't pay your landlord, that is not the business of the police. Those are civil matters. You can no longer parade suspect. It's become a criminal offense to parade suspect. It's become a criminal offense to torture suspects. It's illegal to ask for bail in a police station. The law has now provided that if you arrest any Nigerian, on getting to the police station, the family members will be contacted at the expense of the government. Right? The law has also provided that once a month, a designated magistrate shall visit a police station, every police station in Nigeria, with a view to ensuring that nobody is kept there illegally. Now, I can tell you that we have a civilized human rights regime on paper.
Exactly.
What we are now trying to do is to mobilize a set of young lawyers who believe in human rights.
Who are we?
What I'm talking of progressive lawyers.
Okay.
To get young lawyers to go out there and defend the rights of the people. Whereas in those days, I couldn't go to court and say, somebody has been killed. I want justice. Just like you have in the case of Delegewa and Gani Fawemi. The court said, for years, that Gani had no local standing. You are not the only one in the society. So why are you complaining about the
plight of the poor?
The way and manner Delegewa was killed. But eventually, the Supreme Court agreed that under our African jurisprudence, traditional African society, we are all our brothers' keepers. But as soon as that judgment was given, the military dictators went back to the drawing table and now roll out another law in Lagos to say, no, you cannot ask for justice for everybody. Today, in the area of human rights, every Nigerian, every organization can now challenge the violations of human rights of others. So we've made progress to this extent. But because of mass ignorance and fear, people cannot access justice. So what we try to do, I'm talking of progressive lawyers, is to mobilize our colleagues to extend legal services on pro bono publico basis to the majority of our people.
There must be a lot of majority to do.
Oh yes, oh yes. Okay.
Now there's this case about the judgment against Atiku. What would you talk about? Because it looks like there's some misinformation going on.
Well, for majority of lawyers, nobody was expecting a miracle. Because having regards to the state of our electoral jurisprudence, established essentially under the Olusegun Obasanjo administration, or rather, under the PDP government for 16 years, the law hasn't changed. And if you study that judgment very critically, just talking of the judgment of the Court of Appeal, yes, majority of the cases cited were decided under the PDP government. In other words, for 16 years, the PDP was enjoying an electoral system that was anchored on technicalities. In fact, after some of the judgments were delivered, there was dancing and celebration on the streets.
It has come back to haunt them.
Of course. And for me, I mean, those were days of do or die, yes, elections, where election results were declared in Abuja if they couldn't declare them on ground because of hostility and possible riots, you know. Yeah. So, and I think it was in one of the cases, Buhari and Obasanjo that the late Honorable Justice Pat Asholonu x-ray our electoral law, electoral justice, and came to the conclusion that there was no way you could win a presidential election petition. Because according to his lordship, you will need to assemble 250,000 to 300,000 witnesses. And by the time you have led them in evidence, the respondent will have completed his term and be gone. At that time, there was no limit with respect to time. Now there is limitation of time. You are supposed to conclude the election petition within 180 days. In the case we are talking about, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar had only 10 days to prove his case. How many witnesses can you assemble in 10 days?
Well, some of them were even contradicting themselves.
Now, when you look at that, talking of server, INEC said, unfortunately, there was no server because the ruling class for 16 years and for the past 4 years
did not want to get it.
Have not allowed the status quo to change. They don't want to go electronic.
Even technologically,
yes. They don't want it. They are opposed to technology because that will expose fraud, electoral manipulation.
Yes.
And it's going to continue. I mean, the leadership of the APC has said, we are winning the 2023 election.
Yes.
Just like PDP said, it was going to be in power for 60 years. So, unless we are prepared as a people to amend the electoral law, we're not going to get out of it. Because it is not the duty of a judge or a tribunal to decide the winners of election. That is the exclusive preserve of the electorate. And you know, in the Agor Bush case, the judge Brett that gave the minority judgment did say, just paraphrasing him, Americans may never know the actual winner of that election, but the loser is known.
The same thing with Nixon, Kennedy.
And the loser is the judiciary, whose ability to determine cases under the rule of law is being questioned by the people. In the same thing here, we all blame our judges in cases where their hands are tied, as it were, by the kind of decisions of the highest court of the land.
There are precedents.
There are precedents. And the law is, the decisions of court are based on precedents.
Yes.
So when you say, oh, somebody did not have a school certificate, the law doesn't talk of a school certificate. The law talks of education up to junior secondary school. Or primary 6 living certificate with 10 years experience, working experience in either the private or public sector. Or anybody who can speak English, the English language, to the satisfaction of INEC, can contest election. But if you go out there to say, oh, the man who has won the election does not have a school certificate, the man who has won the election has a dual nationality, and the rest of them, the law is settled in many of these areas. So, or you now say, oh, Malam Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is not a Nigerian. How can we go to that level? Because the APC people were celebrating the loss of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar in his own world.
Yes.
So who voted for him? Who voted for Buhari? Cameroonians. So if the court had upheld that objection, people in 6 local governments, from Borno to Cross River State, will have been expelled from Nigeria. So some of these objections are rather embarrassing for the country. And that is why we have to go back to the drawing table and decide whether we have...
What law do we need?
Whether we need to have credible election. And you're not going to have this. And my own suggestions are simple. Straightforward. You have to introduce electronic voting. And INEC can do so under Section 52 of the Electoral Act. You don't need any law, any law, because
the existing law,
Section 52 that ban electronic voting has now been amended to empower INEC to adopt any means deemed fit for voting in Nigeria. So that is an omnibus provision that allows INEC to maneuver and introduce electronic voting. The card reader must be made compulsory. So you can't say card reader was used in Ekiti, but cannot be used in Bayelsa. No. Or in Sokoto, in the same election. So you can't allow such, choice. If you like, you can disable the card reader here, but in other places you activate it. So these are the problem. The other one is, if we are going to retain this system, this very backward system, nobody can win a presidential or governorship election. But there is no time to prove your case. And that is why we must go electronic voting. Just like Kenya. It was possible to annul the last presidential election in Kenya in 2016 because
the evidence was indubitable.
Electronic voting. So, and the whole case lasted 14 days, in line with Section 140 of their constitution. Here is 180 days. But within the 180 days, you can't call a witness from each polling unit in Nigeria with a view to impeaching the presidential election. But if we are not going to change the system, for me, the onus of proof has to shift. Has to shift to INEC. Because under our law, it is who asserts that must prove. If it's INEC that says we have conducted good elections, credible elections, you go to court and prove it once you are challenged. The owner should not go to the respondent who has lost the election to prove that the election was not conducted in accordance, substantially in accordance with the law. That's your own duty. Yes. I'm not claiming you conducted good election. You say it. So you go to court.
But there's a problem there, because if you say that you should prove that you conducted a good election, if I proved it any way I wanted, I could get away with it.
No, that's why.
If you cannot disprove me.
That's why the court is there. That's why the court is there. Because by the time you say, oh, we have conducted good elections in Lagos State, yes, that's your claim.
You don't have counter
your
evidence.
Opponent. No, the respondent will counter. But instead of saying it is the respondent that must prove beyond reasonable doubt, that onus will be on INEC. And two, we can't import criminal procedure to the proof of election petition. We simply want to know who won the election, who lost the election. So we have to go back to proof on the balance of probability and not prove beyond reasonable doubt. We're not in a criminal court. We're not in a criminal trial. So
that would be difficult.
No, it is not. That was what happened in the case of Ajashi and Omobori Owo. By 6-1, the Supreme Court decided that on the balance of probability, Ajashi won the election.
Probability will be another issue.
Issue for it simply means on the scale of
2-1
justice,
yes,
who is likely to have won the election without technicalities.
Well, it's noted.
But as I said, President Buhari said he couldn't sign the 2018 electoral bill because it was passed so close to the election. The elections are over, right? The tribunals will soon wind up. The Supreme Court will soon decide the case if Alhaji Atiku Abubakar goes to the Supreme Court. But once that is over, we must now have a new electoral act that takes cognizance of the recommendations of the Ways, Lemu, and Nnamani panel, the 2014 recommendations of the 2014 National Conference, and the judgments of our court that have criticized the electoral act.
But as you yourself have said, you said it's going to be very difficult to have all of those things done.
No, we have to push them. I mean, this ruling class will not do it.
Yes.
Because every ruling party believes that it will not leave power and that it is better to exploit
the process that you've benefited from than starting something that won't. So that is why we're in a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, but that's why we now need to mobilize Nigeria to demand for genuine electoral reform so that we are not continuously exposed to ridicule before the Committee of Nations.
This will be all we have for this week, and we shall continue with this interview next week. Keep in touch. Just before the program ends, this is my poem in honor of Leah Sharibu.
In your silences are many voices, none of them sonorous. But we would want to hear you cry and know whether somehow it can rouse all those who in their marble joys and cozy snores at night may one day ask the keys to your prison door.
Thank you for watching the program today. You can catch up with my published columns on www.samomashaye.com. Also follow me on Twitter. My handle is @SamOmashaye. And until next time, be good.